Hello, Keith Rucker, VintageMachinery.org. Guys, a while ago I picked up a Rivett 1020S metal lathe, and when I got it, it was really kind of badly in need of a 3-jaw chuck. It actually came with one, it came with two. One of them was damaged. I'm not sure exactly what happened. It was a cheap Chinese chuck, and I just decided that, particularly at the speeds that that machine runs at, I just wasn't going to take any chances with it. Typically, when you get above a certain RPM on a lathe, you want to stay away from cast iron chucks. You want to go to steel body chucks. The cast iron ones can shatter at high RPMs, which is never a good thing. The other smaller chuck that came with the lathe, I actually hadn't even put it on there, but it's a real small chuck, and I needed an 8-inch size one. So I did a little bit of looking, a little bit of digging, trying to figure out where I could find me a decent chuck. And lo and behold, one day as I was sitting in bed at night, it hit me. Hey, I think I've got a chuck down in the shop. And turns out I was right. Actually, a couple years ago, I bought a lot of tools in a auction up at Boeing in Macon, Georgia. There was a whole cart full of just miscellaneous stuff, and there were several things in that lot that I was specifically wanting to bid upon. And I ended up winning that bid, winning that lot. But one of the things that was in that lot was a very nice Rohm 8-inch chuck. And when I got it, I really didn't have a machine to put it on. I just stuck it on a shelf back there in the back, and it hit me that I had this thing. I don't think this chuck has hardly ever even been used. I think it's been used, but very light work done on it, if it's even been used at all. And it's been sitting on my shelf for about 2 or 3 years, so it's a little dirty. Got a little bit of rust on it. My job today is I want to tear this thing apart. I'm going to let it soak in evapo-rust, get it cleaned up. I want to take it completely apart, check the insides, make sure everything's cool, and then we're going to put it back together. Now, one issue that I know I got to deal with is that this lathe had a back plate on it when I got it, and I've already kind of pulled that back plate off. So if you're not familiar with these chucks, typically you're going to have a back plate, and this back plate is going to be what mounts to whatever machine that you want to mount to. This one kind of has some type of universal mounting plate. I'm not really sure what it was designed to go upon, but it doesn't fit my lathe. What does fit my lathe is an L0 taper, and that's what I've got here. This is just a partially machined back plate. So basically the part that mounts on the spindle is all machined. This end down here is not. We need to machine the back plate to fit the lathe and actually fit the lathe onto my machine over here. So we will actually mount this on the lathe we're going to be using it on, machine it so that we have the right taper, and it's up back here. We'll have to drill the holes to mount it into, and we should be good to go. So we're going to be machining this back plate a little bit later in the video, and this back plate is basically obsolete now, at least for my use. So let's get in here and tear this chuck apart and see what we got. So let's start taking this apart by removing these removable jaws, and they are probably on there tight. Let's just break out the big gun and there it comes. So there is some evidence of some chips in here, so can't say it's never been used. Next step, I want to spin the jaws out. These are on a scroll on the inside. There's a scroll thread around that, and these are timed going back in. They're also numbered 1, 2, 3, and these are also numbered on the end, so you know which one to go in first, and you have to put them in that order, 1, 2, 3. All right, you're starting to see the scroll down there in the bottom now. There we go. Go ahead and pull these out. Next up here we got some screws, and I believe these hold in the little gear that spins this thing around. So there's 3 places for your key chuck to go in. And these kind of lock that in place. So let's see if we can get those out. Well, all right. Looks like we just need to kind of, there you go, let gravity pull those out. Set that one there, wants to be stubborn. All right, this one here is wanting to be a little bit stubborn, so I got a magnet. And let's see. There it comes. Very good. It was just kind of stuck in there, I don't know why. All right, so now the whole bottom of this chuck should come apart pretty easily. I may have to tap it apart. I got a little brass hammer here, or brass punch rather. Let's see. There it comes. Okay. That casting is out. And then we got the scroll plate in here. I think we got it. All right, there is the scroll. And the scroll looks like it's in great shape. Got some grease and stuff on it, but tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this over to my parts washer now. I'm just going to clean it up real good in there, get all the grease off, and then to the evaporust, and we'll let this thing soak overnight. Well, I got my parts out of the evaporust, and everything's cleaned up real nice. So let's go ahead and see about putting this chuck back together. So let's just wipe this out real quick, make sure there's nothing down in there. And first thing we want to do is put our ring back in, and it's just a nice tight fit in here. Alright, that is in there, and it is spinning like it needs to be. I cleaned most of the grease out of this whenever we took it apart, so I'm going to make sure we got plenty of grease down inside of this area here. And I'm using a Teflon grease here to do this. Next thing we'll do is put our little back piece in here. And this has to line up with the holes that go through here. So let me go ahead and just, let me go ahead and see if I can get these screws started, which will hopefully get those lined up. I'm going to leave those loose for the moment because it looks like they're not lined up exactly right, but probably when we put these in, they will kind of self-align in there because those have to go into a pin in the back. And these are held in place. If you look, there's a little groove right here, and this screw comes in and locks that in place. So I'll go ahead and put those in. go ahead and lock these down. Just gonna put a little grease on these. Don't want to get too much down in here, but I do want to make sure we have at least some lube on it. And that's all the way around. Okay, so now let's find, this is jaw number 1 right here. It's 1, 2, 3, and that's the order we want to go in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, and if you look, hopefully you can see the scroll down in there. I'm going to bring that one around until it just starts coming in. So that's when that one comes in first. So what I need to do now is find number 1 of these. That's 2. This one's 1. All right, so I'm going to do is slide this one in, and hopefully when it comes around there you go. That's grabbing that one and pulling it in. I'm going to watch until it comes to number 2, right there. So we'll take number 2. And I'll watch over here at number 3. There it went. These have to be timed properly or it won't work right. And they also have to go in the correct direction and not upside down. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just bring these all the way into the center just to make sure they're all in a line. Make sure I didn't miss a tooth. And it's looking like it's pretty good. So if all is well, all 3 of those should hit the center at the same time, and they did. So now we can go ahead and put our jaws back on. These are also numbered. This is number 3, so it's going to go on this one. There's a long one and a short nut there, or screw. Okay. And our chuck is back together. So now what we need to do is take our new back plate. This is an L0 back plate, and I need to machine that so that it will fit up on there, and we can put this together and mount it on the machine and run it. You can see this L0 mount that I have on the lathe here, which basically consists of a taper, it has a key, and then we have a ring that screws up onto a piece and pulls it up tight on here. Now, what I've got here is a back plate. This is just an unfinished back plate. So it has the taper, it has the threads on it, but this side is unfinished. My spanner wrench here, and we will tighten that up on there. And now what I want to do is basically machine this back plate on the lathe. That way everything's going to be running perfectly true on this machine, and we will make it match. Now, what is that's going to consist of is we need to, of course, face the front here. The outside is just a little bit oversized. We're going to have to turn that down to the proper dimension. I believe that's actually a metric chuck. We'll have to get a measurement on it to do it. It's basically 8 inches, but I forget how many millimeters it is. But anyway, we'll measure it, get that. But the big thing is here in the middle, there is a little bit of a kind of a tapered piece that fits up on the back side of that chuck. In fact, let me grab this and show it to you. All right, so here's the back of the chuck. And again, you see there's a little recessed area in here. This actually has a little bit of a taper. It's about a 7-degree taper. And what I want to do is I want to turn this down just a little bit and basically get that taper put in there so that I can put this up on here, this taper will kind of index this to get it centered up onto the piece, and then we'll have to drill and tap 3 holes to bolt it all in place. So that's kind of the workflow here. The big thing is going to be to get this taper to match, and we're going to leave about a 1/2 inch of material back here, and it's only going to take about a little over 1/4 inch deep on this. It's not going to go all the way to the full depth in here, but it'll be enough to give it a register to run true on. So that's the game plan. I'm going to get some dimensions and stuff worked out so that I know what I'm working on, and then we'll start turning this on the lathe. All right, I think we are ready to get going here. So we'll fire the lathe up. First thing I want to do is just touch off on this, and we're just going to face that front ever so slightly. Get us a good flat finish all the way across. We're going to be milling or machining off a bunch of this, but I want to have a flat spot up there at that front. So we'll start with that. And I've made a mark in here in an area where I got plenty of material to still come off. And we're just going to go ahead and start whittling this down. I'm going to leave a little boss there in the middle that we will cut the final shape after we get through facing the backside down to the proper thickness. All right, we're just going to keep cutting it down till we get it down there, guys. So we're about down to our final pass here. Taking about 25 thousandths per pass on the depth. And that should leave me about 10 thousandths to clean up when we get through here in a little bit. I'm going to leave a little bit of material in there. We're going to turn that diameter down on that hub, and once I get that done, we'll get the thickness to the proper thickness. So that should leave us about 10 thousandths extra on the thickness. So I'm shooting for 625 on this, and we're at about, or excuse me, 600 on this, and we're about 613. So I got about 13 thousandths to take off of that. And the center hub right now is about a little under 3.5 inches. We need that to be 3.25, 3.25. So tell you what I think I'm going to do. This thing's pretty hot. I'm going to let her cool down before we do anything else. I've let this cool down now real good, and what I want to do next is go ahead and get this diameter here turned down to the proper size, and that size is 3.25 inches, 3.25. And just to kind of see where we're at, we are starting out at about 3.425, so we got about 100 thou to come off of that diameter. In here and start whittling away at it. That's going to be about 0 there. I got a nice clean surface, and we're about 415. So I think we're ready to go. We're going to cut our taper. I have my compound here set for 7 degrees, which should match the taper up on the chuck. So what I'm going to do is we'll come in here. I'm already kind of touched off right there, but we'll feed in with the compound to cut that. I'm going to feed in a few thou, and I'll cut my angle with the cross feed here, or with the compound rather. So if you remember, we have a taper in this socket right here, and we're trying to cut the matching taper here on the back plate. So let's set this up here and see what happens. And it's starting, but it's not going all the way on there yet, so I need to take a little bit more off. All right, let's see what we got now. All right, we're a lot closer, but still not quite there. So let me take this a little bit more off. It's not going to take much. I'm going to sneak up on it, taking light passes. I don't want to get in a hurry here and take off too much. Yeah, we are like super close. I almost bet that would pull down with the bolts in there, but I'm gonna take just probably another thou off of it, and I think we'll be where we need to be. And I've still got just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that's going to pull down whenever we tighten up the bolts, so I'm going to call that good. And before we take this off to mount it, I need to get the outside cut down, and the chuck is 7 inches, 870 thou, and right now we're at about 876, so I really only got about 6 thou to take off of that diameter. I knew it was close. So let me come in here, touch off. And 870 right on the number. So I'm going to champ for those edges just a little bit. I just want to break that edge. I don't want to put very much in there at all. So that should be plenty. The back side's got a good chamfer on it already. Take some emery cloth here. I think we are good, so I'm going to take this off and get the holes drilled in it, and we'll mount that chuck. There we go. I've got the chuck sitting on the back plate here, and I need to locate the position for the 3 holes I need to drill and tap. And to do that, this is just a transfer punch, and it's a punch that's pretty much the exact same size as the hole that goes down. I got a set of these in different sizes. Now my set is in fractional inches. This is a millimeter hole, but this is, it's almost a perfect fit. It's gonna be just fine. So I'm gonna put them in each of them. It's got a center punch on the end, and that will find the location for them. So 1, 2, 3. And take this back off. And I have center punch holes right where my holes need to be. And now this needs to be drilled and tapped for a 10 millimeter bolt. I've got an 8.5 millimeter drill bit. We're gonna go over to the mill machine, get set up, and we'll drill and tap these holes. I got my 3 holes center punched in here. What I wanna do now is just line up in the mill machine. I've just got a pointer put in my chuck, and I'm finding the center of that hole. And we will put our drill bit in, drill our hole. Put a little bit of a countersink on there. Just help that tap get started. Put a little bit of anchor lube on my tap here. And we'll power tap this. Okay. That one's done. I'll put my center back in here, and we'll locate the rest of the holes here. A bit more that way. Come back that way. Let's see. I think that's it right there. All right, we'll go ahead and get the other 2 done. Got our 3 drilled and tapped holes. Make sure everything's clean. And we will take our chuck, set on here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball those for alignment. Now I want to tighten her down. And I'm just making sure that this thing is tight all the way around. It looks like we got a nice, good seal. So I think we're good. Let's go put it on the lathe. Make sure my spindle's good and clean. Got our spanner wrench here, tighten that down. And I believe she is installed. put a gauge pin in my chuck here, and what I want to do is just look at the run out. Now, bear in mind that, you know, this chuck, while this is a nice precision chuck, having made a new back plate, it's probably not going to be perfect. And when I check it, it's about 4 thousandths out, which honestly, guys, that's unacceptable in my book. I really want to have my run out much less than that. So for now, today, I'm run out of time. We're going to call this project quits. But what I'm going to do is in an upcoming video, we're going to put a tool post grinder on this lathe, and we're going to actually grind the chucks or the inside of the jaws so that it is actually running true on this machine. And that way this chuck will be running absolutely perfectly true with this machine. It always goes on because it's pinned in the back. It's always going to go on the same. So hopefully once we grind that in, we should be able to get that run out down to hopefully less than 1/1000th of an inch. With the 3-jaw chuck, it's never going to be perfect, but I think I can do better than 4 thou. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for today, but we did get our back plate mounted. Everything looks good, and I'm real happy. This chuck is really in great shape, and I think it's going to make a nice addition to this Rivett lathe. Well, there you go. That is going to be a wrap. Little video on mounting a chuck, machining a back plate, and mounting a chuck on a lathe. A lot of times you buy a chuck that doesn't come with the proper back plate on it already. This is a job you have to do, and it's fairly simple. Different chucks are a little bit different. I've seen them with different arrangements on the back, but basically you just machine your back plate to match whatever you got in your chuck, just like we did here. So with that, that'll be a wrap, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Comments are appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.